I pray now that you would bless this board as we make our decision. We ask all these blessings in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. For his sake we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Butler and Mr. Director. Again, is next public testimony? No. Okay. Next on the agenda is a public hearing. The time is now 7:02, and I open the public hearing to discuss proposed budget tax rate for 21-22 school year. And first is proposed budget and tax rate. Ms. Cook?
22 to 23.
Oh, I'm sorry. 20. I was reading my script here, so. All right. Okay, 22, 23. Ms. Cook?
Okay, well, here we are, finally. It's been a long summer. We've had lots of good discussions and trying to make sure that we are good stewards of the taxpayers' money and use the funding that we receive well. So pretty much we've talked about this many times. The only thing that has changed since our last discussion is we did our final crunching of numbers, because when we went to the budget workshop, even the last board meeting, we had not put in all of the salaries for our new employees. We wait on service records for those to come to put in. So to get to that final number of what we are able to use. So when we were able to look at all of that, crunch our final numbers, we actually, even with our very conservative, as you remember, we've built this budget on a very conservative 1655. It was 1655. It's actually the number of students in enrollment. And we built it very conservatively on purpose. Even with that, keeping that number, we did not raise it. Even though our enrollment is up, our enrollment is, as of today, it's 1706. So that is a great blessing, but we did not change anything due to that enrollment. We have just left it alone and wanted to still build the budget in a conservative manner. We felt like as we're looking towards building our fund balance and all those things that we've all discussed, that was the best way to proceed. So even with all of that, once we put all the numbers into the final crunching, we did have some funds that were still available to budget, still with reaching the balanced budget. We still had some funds available. So we went back to our main course of action, which is take care of our employees when we're building this budget, and so that we can retain them, remain competitive. And so with the small amount that we had, where could we begin? And I know one of the discussions we've had several times is making sure we want to take care of everyone, but when you can't take care of everyone at one time, which areas are in the most need? The scales for our hourly employees is the area that is the lowest, needed the most help. That was the hardest group that I went and talked to before, when I was trying to tell them that it didn't look like we were going to be able to do much. That was the hardest group to stand before and speak to, because we knew their scales already were not where they needed to be, and then not to be able to do something with them was not what we wanted to say. I know not what you wanted to do, but that's all we thought we could do at the time. But now, after further crunching of these numbers, we are putting in this budget packet for you a 75-cent an hour increase to each step of the hourly scales. So if you look in your packet, you will see, if I can get back to that, you'll see the tab that has the salary scales, and you'll see each of the scales we put in there. And this is, so the first one you'll see, of course, is not our hourly, but our steps. So the teachers, the librarians, the counselors, and the nurses, they are on pay steps. And so we put in the budget, as we discussed before, they would all get their steps. So they will all step up. We were not able, with our current funding situation, to do more than that, but we were able to do their steps. So they all are getting their steps. The next scale is our midpoint staff. This is basically our salaried staff. You see the list here of who all that entails, and we still did the 1% on the midpoint, and you see what that would come out to be for each of those positions. And then the final pieces that you will see are the ones that we touched with the 75 cents an hour. You have the auxiliary staff, which is our campus secretaries, our attendance clerks, and our library aides. We built into their scale a 75 cent increase all the way through. And then you have, the next one is our paraprofessionals. Once again, all these positions all of our positions are very important, but these are positions we're talking about right now, to me, are the very backbone that keep us really moving along. Paraprofessionals, 75 cents all the way down. Food service, that's the specialist, the food service assistants, and the food service supervisors, 75 cents for each of their scales. And then when you look at the custodian, maintenance, and transportation, can't talk tonight, we have our bus monitors, our custodians, our groundskeepers, the helpers, the bus drivers, the specialized experience, the licensed plumber, the licensed electrician, those supervisors for those positions, and lead custodians, and our mechanic. And so you will find in this budget packet that we're bringing to you tonight, this is the changes that were made from the last time that we had the discussions. So with that said, then I'll let Cheryl share any other information, answer any other questions. We're both very excited that we're able to bring that to you tonight for your hopeful approval.
In our package we got in the board book, I don't see the salary scales.
There should have been another tab.
Under public hearing, it says proposed budgets, and then you push that, and then you'll see.
I just got meeting to pass budget, and then,
And there's
let's
just
see.
salary scales right under it.
That's the tax ordinance.
Mine did it like that at home too. One time I got it, next time.
Yeah, it's not coming up on my, I'm not sure why, but,
Would you like
yeah.
us to, you'd like me to?
No, when you were talking about it, I mean, I know what you're talking about, I just didn't have it on my board book, I was going, I couldn't really, determine what you're talking about on it, because it's not on the board book, but again, like I said, it's not a big deal. I knew what you're talking about with the hourly wage scales that we've all seen before, but,
We'll be
yeah.
glad to print them out if you.
no, that's
Can
fine.
it-
That's
no one
fine.
can
I
see
just
them?
didn't know if the other board
Yeah,
members were
I
having,
could.
I didn't know if they're having the same problem with it or not.
I saw mine earlier at home, but it ain't coming out now.
Mine popped up.
Did it?
So,
Odd.
yeah,
Get it now.
that's why I kept looking on the agenda stuff, and it's on the agenda. I kept thinking, I don't see that attachment on my,
Gee, and we're
My
proud
board
of
book.
those scales
Let me-
right
yeah,
I know, we wanted you to see them.
it's out in Never Land, so. But, okay, not a problem. Anybody have any questions?
Just for clarification on the 1% of midpoint for staff. So that's the adjustment to the scale, or what we see in the far right column, that's the amount of pay increase to the employee?
That's their amount of pay increase, because on salary, we look at what TASB's minimum, mid, and max rate is, and then you look at the mid, and you do whatever percentage raise you're doing off of the midpoint. So
got it.
that's not off of their salary. It's not 1% off of the
Yeah,
actual salary.
I
It's
got
off
it.
of the midpoint.
I got it.
So if the midpoint is $600 increase, then they'd add $600 to whatever their current salary is. But you're not seeing their salaries here.
Right. This is a range. So if someone is not yet at the midpoint, they're getting the 1% off of midpoint, not off of their actual salary.
Everyone's getting it off the midpoint.
Okay. And so that goes, how does that affect their, so for some people, it may be 1% if they're around the midpoint, but if they're under the midpoint, then they may be getting more than a 1%, right? Because if,
They're getting, Well, they're getting 1% on the midpoint. I haven't
Right,
drilled
so
down.
if somebody is at the minimum, their, a 1% pay increase, if they're at the lower end, is less than 1% midpoint.
I'd have to look at the numbers to see what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for example, the first line item there, the
Okay.
minimum is 78,913. So 1% of that is less than $1,000.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. So I was just trying to have an understanding of staff is not getting a 1% pay increase. They're getting 1% at the midpoint regardless of where they are at the range.
And that's the way
And so if
we-
they're at the, if they're past the midpoint, then they're getting less than a 1%.
Yes. They're
Okay.
getting 1% on the midpoint. And
Okay.
we've always done it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just, and most districts do, and you're correct. Now I understand what you're
Okay.
saying, yes.
About
If
1%
they're
of the
above the
personal salary.
midpoint, yes, it's a
They're,
little less.
it's a little less than
If
1%.
Yes. Mhm. That is
Okay.
correct.
All right. That's all I had on the scales. unless
Anybody else got any
there's-
questions, comments?
Have the other page, the budget and tax rate that Cheryl's going to
Okay.
just go through with you one more time to make sure everybody, if you have any
Let me go back.
questions.
That's the first attachment, right?
The meeting to discuss budget
Okay.
and tax rate? Yes.
All right, I'm with you.
Pretty much, this is, follows the same discussion that we had at the budget workshop. I provided our estimated revenues, which, the ADA that we're using is 1555, and that comes from having an enrollment of estimated 1655, so we already know we're good there. And the rest of the numbers did not change. They basically stayed the same. For an estimated revenue total for local income was 9,809,898. The state aid, excuse me, is 6,109,662. And then we have, the federal income of 235,000. The grand total estimated revenue of $17,108,560. And then, do y'all have any questions on revenue? Okay, and then going forward, I have the comparison of the current year budget that we're ending to our proposed budget. All of the salary increases are included here. They've already been adjusted. So if you had a chance to look at this and have any other questions, I don't really know of anything other than the salaries that changed since the last meeting we had. But bottom line, on page 9, the budget is balanced to the revenue, so, yes.
My page 2, let me see here. Oh, so I did have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
On kind of middle of the page, it says total local income.
Oh, you're back on revenue? Okay.
It's the page 2 of 14. Right before state aid. That's highlighted in yellow, the line above it? Okay.
The total local income.
Yes. So for the 22-23 year, that total local income is 9,809,898.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And just help me understand that at the bottom, where it says less local share, that number is 9,155,566.
Okay, that is what the state, it's related to our tax values.
Okay.
The state comptroller will certify our county, what they send up to the state, what they certified in July. Then they send that to the state. The state looks at it and then they certify it. That's what TEA uses their calculations. They use that number to estimate what they believe is our local share, what we're responsible for, what they think we're able to raise on our own. And they subtract that from the state funding.
That's the state formula?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Anybody else got any comments or questions for administration? No, yeah.
On the function, let's see, it's instruction 11. I think that's page 4. Yes, okay. So there we have, for instruction, we've reduced it by 66,000
That's our supplies and materials.
for instruction? Okay.
Some of those supplies and materials we're able to spend in ESSER funds, and that's why it's been reduced.
Okay.
Next year, you'll probably see it reversed.
Come back after we lose
Yes,
ESSER.
ma'am.
Okay. And likewise, our capital outlay reduced?
Yes.
ESSER, okay. Because I remember seeing some of these schedules where it said ESSER, so I didn't want to assume, but I knew that some of it may, with the crunching of the numbers and trying to relieve the general operation
Yes.
funds by using whatever was eligible under ESSER.
Yes.
Okay.
One thing I will point out that we tried to increase, it's on the function 51. It's on page 8.
Okay.
The other operating, the $405,000 increase, that includes an increase expected for insurance. Hopefully it's not. And I put in, it's like a 10% increase. I'm hoping that if Mother Nature is good and we don't have any more disasters, hopefully it'll be flattened. And I may be off, and I apologize ahead of time, but we did increase that. And then on contracted services, that $143,000, I did try to increase some of our contracted services, but it also includes the new contract for cleaning. We upped that, and then it was taken away from our payroll costs went down, so that I wanted to point out.
That's with this outsourcing
Yes.
the custodial service, okay.
Ms. Bell, you got any more comments?
No, she already answered the question I had on 51.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Ms. Butler, for the comments. Appreciate it. Thank you. You know, anybody else got any comments or questions? Okay. Thank you.
That was on the local maintenance. I do want to point out that you do have the food service budget here that needs to be approved tonight, and the debt service. The food service budget that we're submitting, there was an increase, well, we flipped some expenses, but there's an increase in capital outlay. This is federal funds, and we have requirements that we have to meet, and one of the requirements this year is that we have to spend down the fund balance in food service. And the, excuse me, the biggest portion of that $200,000 is going to go replace the serving line at the high school. She's updating and putting all new in, and that should be in hopefully by December. So I did want to point that we're doing that. And then our debt service budget, this is based on our tax rate of 1.36523. That's the same tax rate that we had last year. And I know we'll have a discussion about the tax rate a little bit later on. But in order to keep that same tax rate, we will be paying more on our principal, around about $567,000 extra on our principal, which is a good deal because we're going to be paying that off sooner. So I did want to point that is already in the budget. And if you had any questions about that.
Questions?
We're adopting the figures, not these supporting spreadsheets, right? We're adopting
The rate,
the rate
yes.
tonight. That's the action item.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, later on. And do you have any more questions about the budget? Okay. Then we're required to discuss the tax rate as well. And this information basically is what I've already given you. It was updated after we got our certified values. And that's, these numbers is where we get our estimated tax collections for current taxes on both L&M, local maintenance, and on INS. Those numbers are used, I send those to our county, and the notice of public, the notice that is published in the newspaper, and it also had to put in today's date that we are actually having this discussion. If you had a chance to look at that, I don't know if you had any questions about the notice? No?
No, I saw it, but I don't have any questions on it.
Okay. Basically, in the center of the notice, it has a comparison of proposed rates with last year's rates, so we're required to show what we had this current year and how we're going for next year. And then the next section is how it plays out, or how it affects the average resident's bill.
So we're looking at 0.85460 for maintenance operations, and interest and sinking rates of 6523
Yes, sir.
for a total of 0.99123.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Those numbers will be what is listed on the tax ordinance when we get to the action items. Those numbers will be on the tax ordinance that you have to approve.
All right. So anybody any questions on tax rate? Okay. Anybody else got any comments or questions on it before we move on? Okay, next is public testimony. So again, do I have, the time is now 7:25. Do you have anybody for public comments? No. Okay, so with no public comments, I'm going to close, unless somebody has any other questions, I'm going to close the public hearing and move on to the action items on the agenda. First thing on discussion item, action item is discuss and take action on an order authorizing deficits and redemption of a portion of the district's outstanding unlimited tax bonds and approving an escrow agreement and all other investments and procedures related thereto. Ms. Cook?
This was discussed at our budget workshop, and so we're bringing information. All the resolution was put in your packet. This basically, as you just stated, helps us to pay off, approve this outstanding unlimited tax bonds and approve an escrow agent and all other instruments and procedures to be provided. So, unless you have some other questions on it, we've discussed it several times, so we're bringing it back to you tonight for action.
Does anybody have any questions or comments on it? Yes, ma'am.
This
Butler?
also puts us in a better position as far as being more credit worthy,
Yes,
as the advisor discussed with us, correct?
yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
Any other questions, comments? Oh, okay. Okay, with no other comments or questions, do I hear a motion to approve the order authorizing deficits and redemption of a portion of a district's outstanding unlimited tax bonds and approve an escrow agent and all instruments and procedures related thereto?
So moved.
Move made by Ms. Butler, second by Ms. Diostas. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Stansberry and Mrs. Cook for all the work on that. So, I know there's a lot of numbers there to have to crunch out every year.
Some hard decisions to
Yeah.
have a balanced budget.
Yeah, and try to
Still take
balance
care
it
of
out and that.
Our
so,
students and teachers, so
yeah,
yes,
so
thank you.
we appreciate all the effort and time you guys put in on that. Next is consider and approve the 22-23 budget. Ms. Cook?
Well, unless you have any more questions, we're ready to get this thing approved and move forward.
Anybody have any questions or comments on it? The budget we already talked about earlier?
Just to clarify, the document that we have for this part of the discussion is basically a summary of all those schedules? Okay,
The board is only required to pass the budget by function.
Okay, with no other questions or comments, do I hear a motion to approve the 22-23 local maintenance, food service, and debt service budgets as recommended by administration?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Rector. Do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Delfino. Mr. Flores. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, ayes carry. Motion passed. Next is consider the 22-23 tax rate. Ms. Cook?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read this just for public record. So on this date, we, the Board of Trustees of the Aransas Pass Independent School District, hereby levy or set the tax rate of $100 valuation for the district for the tax year 2022 as a total tax rate of .991123 to be assessed and collected by the duly specified assessor and collector as follows. For the purpose of maintenance and operation, it is .854600. For the payment of principal and interest on debts, .136523, and making the total tax rate .991123. We bring this to you tonight for your approval.
Anybody got questions, comments on that?
for the record, that it, in comparison to last year, could you just state for the record what our rate is
The rate for the current year,
for last year?
Last year's rate.
that's,
Oh, for current year, yes.
We won't
we're going
approve
into it,
last
yes.
year's rate. We approved last year.
last year's maintenance and operations tax rate was .872000. With a total tax rate of 1.008523.
And this does take into consideration the prior action that we just took to pay more in principal. Okay.
So anybody have any questions or comments on that? Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the 22-23 tax rate as recommended by administration? Motion made by Mrs. Diasa, second by Mr. Rector. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is consider and approve community public relations contract. Ms. Cook?
This is Mr. Roland Rodriguez, our wonderful PR personnel that we work together. We have as an alliance with the city, the chamber, and ourselves. We remember a year ago we brought to you this opportunity that he wanted to come and be with us, and he has definitely immersed himself into our community, into our district. and he has been a great voice and face for our district. And so we want to continue that contract, and there's no way we would be able to afford to have a PR specialist on our own under our current budget standing especially. So this is a great partnership. So we're bringing the contract back to you for approval this evening so we can continue the great work that he's doing. He's really helping us get our story out there. People are sitting up and taking notice apparently with our 1,706 students that are now here.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of concur with that because, looking at, because, you go on Facebook and all the articles, all the things he's doing as far as the campuses wise. And plus, with I started the same thing this year with the athletic director for once a week reviewing. They kind of talked about the game and the game last week and that they played and the game they're coming up this week. And so they have kind of a meeting with the coach there to go out to the public. So, and it's getting our message out to the public out there that we're showing the good things that Aransas Pass has. And so it gives us an opportunity to beat our chest and, put how proud we are of our students and our staff and other people, the accomplishments they're doing. So it gives us a media presence to put that out to the public in a public forum that we have not had in the past. So.
And he goes to different campuses, also getting that exposure out there. But he do an outstanding job. So you got the right person for the job.
Yes, he is.
Bella, you had a comment, it looked like?
And along with that, just to piggyback on your two comments, that when we do new initiatives and exciting things for our students and our teachers, we know it, but it's very important that not only the community knows it, but the business community, families potentially looking to come here, and like with this year's summer program. I mean, and then highlighting the achievements that students are doing, and just to show the vision and the momentum here in Aransas Pass. And people don't know what they don't know. And so this is shown to be a really good investment for our community. So, and then we're sharing the expenses. It's not all on us because it's through the Alliance, which is another win. So.
I think it's just a win-win for all three.
Yeah.
All three of us.
Yeah, well, you pass my compliments on to Mr. Rodriguez because I think he's doing a good job as a commentator there, and bring that stuff up. And he seems really excited when he's up there talking about stuff. So it looks, that kind of portrays the process. So he's got excited as well as we are. But okay, anybody have any comments or questions before we move on? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the community and public relations contract? Motion made by Ms. Diasas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Butler. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And the ayes got it.
I'm sorry.
Ayes got it. I heard you that there. I want to make sure you had an eye.
Yeah.
Okay, the ayes got
I
it.
think
So,
he opposed.
but again, congratulations to Mr. Rodriguez again for another. Hope we have another successful year.
For the record, I think that we need clarification.
So what?
Yeah.
There was an opposed to the first
Oh, I
one.
thought you.
No, I said an aye for an opposed.
For an opposed, he
Oh,
said
I'm
anyone
sorry.
When you
Anyone
said
opposed, I
opposed,
said
right.
aye.
for
Oh, I'm
record,
sorry.
for the record.
For the
All
record.
right, for the record. Okay, so we got one opposed. Okay, next is a discussion of the custodial contract, service contract. Again, this is brought back for the board because we had a discussion at our last meeting about the custodial contract and had the lawyers look at it and they came up with some comments. So we've actually changed the contract with what the lawyers have recommended and come back. So just for public transparency, we're bringing it back to the board to look at it one more time. So the contract's already out there and that, but just for transparency for the public that we're just trying to show them that we didn't make anything big and any big changes other than just what the lawyers have recommended on the contract, and they're doing a good job as far as I understand.
The scope of work and the price that was brought to you is exactly the same as you see by the agreement, and they are doing a fantastic job. We have had nothing but praise and so forth on the work that's being done. The only changes that were recommended by the school attorney was on page 4 to specify the date to begin the service, which that had been put in there because we hadn't gotten to that point yet. Page 7 is just to make sure that it is an agreement for a period of 1 year that can be renewed up to 4 times in writing, signed by both parties. Page 10, the date of the contract to be the date of the final signatures. And then on all of the pages, we just cleaned it up and put Aransas Pass ISD as the party. She kept putting my name there, and that was just so we took my name out because my name wasn't supposed to be there. So it was basically just some cleaning up of the verbiage on the contract, but the contract, the essence of it, and so forth, remained the same. So anyway, so we just bring that back to you so you would be aware. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions or comments?
The additional insured certificate, is that in here? I see that the insurance carrier confirmed their insurance.
They're bonded.
They're
We
bonded.
have the bonded, we have the liability insurance, so we have all of that paperwork. You have the bond, you have the surety bond package, the mutual, let's see, did we put the liability in your board packet? Liberty Mutual, surety. Going through all these pages here. Yeah, will you go get that packet, the folder? Looks like that was left out, so they can see it. It was in that first packet that you received, but I guess when you scanned it in, there were a couple of pages that were taken out that had the background checks for the employees that were pulled out. So when she pulled those out, she may have accidentally left off the Liberty, but the liability insurance. But we do have it, so we'll get it so you can see it. Any other questions while we're waiting for her to show you that?
So again, this was for services at the Falk campus.
Yes.
And then the employees that were at Falk were moved over to,
Other
Which
campuses that had
campus?
openings.
okay, to
across
fill
the
those
district.
vacancies?
We had vacancies across the district.
Okay, so now in essence, we're fully staffed for our custodians.
I believe so. I think, or we still have one opening? Maybe one
Okay.
opening.
Okay,
That's correct. We did. Yeah, we do have one opening now.
okay. And through the negotiations, they agreed to our basically school day schedule as far as they'll work when we're open.
No, they work
Days-
in the evenings.
Right, but not, I mean, not open for
Calendars
business,
in
but
here,
the
yes.
calendar,
Same, the
they'll stay on the
calendar.
same calendar
did
as
see the
the school
calendar in
district.
there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. We could probably go back to the.
We also talked about, while we're waiting, we also talked about revisiting our kind of record keeping and confidentiality and ensuring that, just to remind staff of that, because we now have a third party coming in that will be, cleaning and caring
Right.
for offices and so forth. So I know this had to be implemented pretty quickly. So was that already done with our,
You had they had a safety training.
oh, okay.
Yes, they had a safety training with the employees and discussed all the expectations and so forth, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And as far as confidential things that the school has, like the administration have, they should be locking those up
Yes,
anyhow.
they're not
You
supposed to
know,
be left out
they should
anyway.
be left out for public, for anybody to look at, even the regular custodians on regular duty right now, until the schools the administration should be making sure those are locked up and kept
Yes.
safe, so that, you know, that
Mhm.
confidential material for students are not out there for anybody else to look at other than the people that need to see them, so. Well, I tell you what, we'll take about
Okay, we're
take about a 5-minute recess real fast while
Okay.
she gets that, and we'll,
Okay.
you know, so,
Or is that
you know, the
just
time is now.
It's-
Say what?
Is that an action item?
No, it's just a discussion item,
Yeah,
but you
we're
are
not-
wanting to,
Yeah,
We already
Sunday?
took action on it at the last meeting, but it was
so I get,
to
I
bring it
mean,
back to make sure that
we have it, and it just did not get in this packet, so before you leave here, we can show it to you, but,
I just want to make sure because what we had in the last packet had incorrect dates on it, and so I just want to make sure that that the certificate was, that they would receive the new certificate, because they had the year, I believe, 2021 on it.
okay, okay.
yeah. So
Just to
again,
make
we'll
sure that
make-
there's no technicalities if for some
Well, if
reason.
you'd like us just to look at that, we can
Yes.
do that. We have
Okay.
the liability insurance, we'll look
Okay.
at that and make sure.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
well, yeah,
And I
w-
could gladly scan it in and send it to you in an email.
Yeah, 'cause I didn't
Okay.
want by default that that
Yeah.
certificate be null and void because it had the wrong date on it.
Yeah, so again, we'll make sure that's done and corrected in that. But with no other business before the board, anybody else have any other business we talk about? Okay, with no other business before the board, the time is now 7:23, and,
42, but 40.
oh, you're right, I can't read my watch. 7:43, and the time is now 7:43 PM. Is in the, so I adjourn this meeting.
You need to go eat something.
Take a talk reading contest course.